It is 2020, America on Reset, healing a nation and opportunity for all. We are delighted that you could join us again for these important conversations. Many of you know I have worked in all three sectors, public, private, and nonprofit. I have served as the president of the WNBA and CEO of Time's Up. But I have also found a tremendous passion for my board work here at Operation Hope. We know that the work we do around financial literacy and economic empowerment is impactful every day. But during this pandemic and these unique times, it is even more relevant and resonant. So thank you for spending time with us today and joining us on this continued journey toward healing a nation. Let's start with our first conversation. Please allow me to introduce our fearless leader, Chairman, Founder, and CEO, John Bryant. He will be in a conversation with an additional friend, U.S. Deputy Secretary for the United States Treasury, Justin Muzinich. Gentlemen, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. This is John Hope Bryant, and welcome to the Hope Global Forum 2020 annual meeting. America on Reset. Healing a nation, opportunity for all. Thank you, Lisa Borders, for all that you do and your family have done. She comes from a long line of civil rights leaders, and in many ways she's becoming a civil rights leader in her own vein. I have somebody with me today that represents that bridge as well, who respects civil rights, has been a student of civil rights, but also understands the need to go from success in the streets to success in the suites. The Deputy Secretary of the Treasury is the number 2 in the number 1 economy in the world. He's almost the chief operating officer for the economy. And I will say this, I think that he and the Secretary of the Treasury, along with the Fed chairman, helped to keep this economy on a bipartisan basis, which made me so proud when the stimulus came into being, keep this economy on track and keep it from falling into the abyss. If you don't realize how tentative things were at the beginning of this year, and they came together in a week and put together the CARES Act. They even called me on a Saturday morning, and I weighed in on the PPP program. And yes, there were bumps and bruises, and yes, the website crashed for PPP. You don't stand up the 5th largest bank in America in 20 days and not have glitches. But it was extraordinary, and the confidence that they've injected in the marketplace has kept at least the investor economy stable. We now need to do things for the real economy. And I want to talk about more things for the real economy. I want to let my friend talk about what may not be obvious to the American people. What are you doing? And by the way, the Freedmen's Bank, you all know I love this Freedmen's Bank vision. And the first thing we connected on was the last Secretary of the Treasury was gracious enough to rename the Freedmen's Bank building from the Treasury building at our request in 2016. He amplified it. He and the Secretary of the Treasury amplified the Freedmen's Bank and created a Freedmen's Bank forum. They could have pushed it aside. They could have tried to play politics. They've never done that with me. I thank them for that. Just straight ahead. They knew it was the right thing to do. And that said a lot about their character, both the Secretary and the Deputy Secretary. Deputy Secretary Muzinich, honored to have you with us this morning.
Well, thanks, John. It's great to be with you. And I was there in person last year. It was an incredible event in person, and it's equally impressive you're able to pull this off virtually. So congratulations. And it's just speaking about the Freedmen's Forum to start, which you brought up. We actually made the announcement for the Freedom Forum. The first time we went public with it was at the Hope Global Forum last year, and it was a great venue for it. You showed a lot of leadership in sort of getting the forum off the ground, and it's especially nice this year to see lots of other announcements being made. So you're showing a lot of leadership. I saw Rodney Hood made an announcement yesterday about a new access program. A number of companies are doing the same thing. So it's really the Hope Global Forum and your annual conference is really turning into an important venue, for financial empowerment. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. We don't want to just be meet to meet and meet to talk. We want to be meet to commit and meet to act. both PhD and PhD too. What are you doing there at the Treasury Department? We had this Freedmen's Bank Forum, which was really I started thinking about a new Marshall Plan, really, as a thought process. Get us into the wheelhouse. Open the hood a little bit. Treasury is the oldest government agency in the history of this country. It was the first one ever created. Get us into the wheelhouse. What's going on there? What should people be feeling? Concerned, relieved, hopeful? Give us some background and then lead us into this. I'm just going to let you talk for a minute.
Sure. Yeah. Well, these are issues we think a lot about and take very seriously, especially during COVID. I mean, this is a crisis brought on by sort of an external event, not the fault of the American people.
That's
and
right.
People have been really suffering and hurt. And we're very aware that often the burden falls on those least able to bear it. And it was sort of that awareness, I think, that really brought the country together, as you said, in a bipartisan way. I think the secretary did a just terrific job, along with leaders in Congress and the chairman of the Fed, in leading the country in a bipartisan way. And we did a whole number of things, which I think have really sort of helped the economy, helped cushion the blow. There's obviously still more to do. Yeah. But I mean, if you look at sort of the unemployment checks that went out, the direct checks in the mail, whether or not you were unemployed, got a stimulus check. The PPP, I think, made a huge difference. There were a number of things we did in the PPP to try to make sure that funds were flowing, especially to those who needed it most. We undertook a big effort to make sure minority development institutions and community development financial institutions, which sort of operate in higher need areas, were able to be part of the PPP program. So, we've really gone full throttle to try to get money sort of where it's needed.
Yes, and I want to again underscore here I've done work with secretaries of treasuries that actually were underwhelming to me. I won't name names, over 5 U.S. presidents. The two that stand out for me are Secretary Jack Lew, who originally heard me about the Freedmen's Bank. That was Obama, and then Secretary Mnuchin. And as a deputy secretary, I've never seen one more effective and who had more of a voice of influence and a voice of reason than you. And when I got this call, I forget what month it was, but it was right when we realized there was a problem. John, help us think about this PPP program. How do we structure it? And I'm waiting. It was a Saturday morning, and I'm looking at the phone, wondering what this really is. And it was like, we want to make sure that the small businesses get this support. And I'm like, am I really getting this call? And I made my notes and sent them to you, and some of that survived, some of it didn't. But you listened and you were engaged, and we tried to get that money to the least of these God's children. Clearly, we've now learned that small businesses need coaching and support to get that infrastructure. We now learned that 96% of all black businesses don't have an employee, so unfortunately they could not benefit from PPP. But you couldn't solve all that in 10 days, right? But it was a lot of creativity, and I want to commend you for leaning in and all. And you got blamed for stuff that didn't go right and got no credit for the stuff that went well. But you stayed in the fight. Should people feel hopeful that our financial system is strong, that our fiscal system is strong, that the infrastructure is strong?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the financial system is very strong. The economy is recovering well. And, I think one of the most important, the response to COVID was, as you said, it was a short-term response to an immediate problem. Right. But what really matters over time are a lot of the structural issues. And you've done a great job leading on that at the U.S. Treasury. We have a number of initiatives to address that. As you know, because I remember you were at an event for it, we started a mentor-mentee protege program to try to get expertise to smaller banks, a lot of them minority-owned, We have a financial literacy program. There are all these structural issues which are really, really important. And I think the most important thing we can do, and we've made great progress on this, is to get the economy going. And it's creating job opportunities, creating wage growth that will really, and making sure that's broadly distributed, that will really make a difference in people's lives.
So I'm wondering whether it's too early to try to be innovative as well, to think outside the box. I know the structural issues you spoke to. Thank you for that. But I've got this idea around the new Marshall Plan, a living wage for all. I love the earned income tax credit as an example, which is again another bipartisan initiative that survived, I think, 4 or 5 presidents, multiple administrations, that gives the average worker a bonus for working. I know this is something that probably goes beyond Treasury, but is that a bridge too far to try to get an expansion, a deepening of the earned income tax credit so that the average worker can get a bonus? Or are there other creative ideas you guys are thinking about that we can help, Americans can help to encourage our representatives to, from both sides of the aisle, to knock it off on the games and get to solving problems for us, whether it be small business or consumer or whatever?
Sure. Yeah, the earned income tax credit has been a very successful program, and it's an example of sort of creativity in policymaking, and it's really has attracted bipartisan support, and as you said, lasted a while and been a very successful program. There are a whole number of innovative ideas that are worth considering. We're looking a lot at the fintech space and the ability of fintech to get credit into communities that that may not have had credit historically. But above all, what I'd encourage you and others in the private sector to do is to have creative ideas and to share them with policymakers, because government is doesn't have a monopoly on coming up with new ideas, and we have a country full of smart and creative people, and we want input from people like you and others who have creative ideas. I think fundamentally we all share the same goals, which is that we want growth to be broadly distributed, to reach down into communities that maybe historically haven't benefited from it. And if we agree on that goal, it can bring people together, and I think we all have to be open to sort of new ideas to achieve it.
I wouldn't want your job for anything in the world. You and the secretary, you get up in the morning, look at your phone and go, what the? Huh? And while people are driving their cars very calmly down the street or walking their dog or dealing with life, you know that if you don't make the right decision, and if you don't get everybody to come along, bad things are going to happen, not just in America, but around the world. And it's all the things you can't talk about, probably on this program, and maybe ever. But I want to thank you for giving your public service and for leaning in. Again, I've met a lot of people who I'm not impressed with at all. And I don't like when people play games with the American public, or people who are invisible, worse, those who don't have a voice. But you've never done that to me. And every conversation has been, you didn't always tell me what I wanted to hear, but you always told me what you felt and what was possible. And we've had more wins than not. I'll end with my comments and whatever you'd like to add. I'll end with the Freedmen's Bank, which is where we started. People probably don't know what this is. But it was an effort by Abraham Lincoln, joined by Frederick Douglass, again, a Republican and a Democrat, a black and a white and a black, to create a bank after the Civil War to teach freed slaves about money. Because those Union soldiers who were black, who were fighting for our freedom, were being taken advantage of at the camps for the Union soldiers by that era's, the 1800s version of a payday lender or check casher or predatory provider, trying to separate those soldiers from their wallet. And you had 40 acres, you had a mule, and then you had the bank created to teach financial literacy and domicile the savings. And unfortunately, Lincoln was killed the next month. And does that inform some of your thinking today, Deputy Secretary, on what we need to do and how we need to behave in this current environment where I think we're also sitting right now in a moment in history?
Sure. Yeah, it's Listen, I think Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass were on to a basic truth that, financial empowerment and financial inclusion is very important for society and very important for helping people sort of realize their dreams for them and their children. And it's the same basic truth which you've latched on to and shown great leadership on, and we at the Treasury, really believe in it. And I appreciate your thoughts on my public service. Let me just say, I've always considered it a great honor to be in public service, a real privilege, and considered it a special privilege to be able to serve during this very difficult time for the country, and to try to do what I can as part of a big team, really focused on moving the country in the right direction and trying to recover.
Yeah, as we close here, thank you, Mr. Deputy Secretary. As we close here, I just want you to please pass a memo around the Secretary of the Treasury's office and the Treasury Department to just not forget about the least of these God's children as you're dealing with the urgent. Make sure we focus on the important also. People mean well, but the urgent crowds out the important. And it is the least of these God's children that are dying the most from COVID, that are stressed out the most from this crisis. You know all this. But as you're just carve out, as a friend of mine said, expand the table and add a chair to every conversation you're having, because girding up this group will grow GDP for the future and stabilize our democracy for generations to come. And we can't afford to play games of any type, as you well know, and you agree, when it comes to the most vulnerable. What I love about the Treasury Department is the color is green. And I just want people there to realize that they're appreciated, their service is appreciated, and we want them to really be creative right now about expanding opportunity for all. Your final words, and I'll let you go. I know you have a country to run.
Thanks, John. Well, listen, I totally agree with you, and the most vulnerable are always on our minds as we're making decisions. I think we all share the same goals. There are occasionally differences about policy differences about how to achieve those goals, but I think at the end of the day, Americans in good faith can unite around the goal of broadly shared economic growth and creating opportunity for everyone.
Shared equity.
So thank you again for having me.
All right. God bless you.